All right, Brendan, thank you so much for joining me here today. And you work currently as the director of equipment with the Los Angeles Rams. And I want you just to start with explaining to our audience, what does it mean to work in equipment for an NFL team, and talk about some of your responsibilities on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely. Well, first, thanks for having me on. I said this is my first podcast, so this is something new to me, but it's pretty cool. So I appreciate the opportunity. What does it mean to me in equipment? So the best way I relate this thing is, a lot of my family members and friends ask me, what do you do? And I always equate to like a roadie for a band, right? Like we're the first people in, the last people out. We handle all the guys' equipment. We get it from A to B and make sure it gets there. And so when the guys show up, just like when a guitar player shows up, he gets up on stage, he's good to go. Guys come to the locker room, their stuff's all there, ready to roll. So um, in the ultimate nutshell, that's kind of what it is. But then there's, as you know, Evan, there's a lot more to it. There's, helping on the practice field to, having the psychologist seat in the office here where guys just come in and vent sometimes. So, I mean, it's hard to explain, but it's the perfect job for me. And yeah, I mean, I hope that sums it up a little bit.
Yeah, it does. So I'm curious, you mentioned the psychologist part. What part about the job most drives your passion currently?
Oh, wow. I mean, I feel like I've always been someone that's been in a team setting, right? And it's just a place where I excel, and being in the locker room with the guys, and kind of having those interactions and being part of a team. You feel the wins, you feel the losses, and when you win, it's the ultimate high. There's nothing like it. And when you lose, you feel like you've been punched in the gut. And you take it personal, really, you do. And that's what I feed off of, right? Those games on Sundays, when the ball kicks off, nothing quite like it, and you take those moments in, sometimes when we're there the night before, set up the locker room, and just sometimes just think about what you're doing, and it's pretty cool, right? You got playing your music, hanging out, and do kind of your shrine for a few hours there before the guys come in and do their thing. So pretty cool stuff for me
Yes,
as a football junkie, and just someone who grew up loving the game. So yeah.
I totally agree with you on that. And I think I used to always tell people about my NFL experiences, like you cannot replicate being on that plane, flying to go play the Jets for Sunday Night Football.
Right.
Like you cannot replicate that. And we put a lot of hard work in, a lot of 7-day weeks, as you are well aware. And just so the audience knows, when we're talking about equipment or video or coaches or players during the season, this is really a all hands on deck. You're there basically every single day for 6 months at a time. Like we're talking about even working on Thanksgiving and Christmas Day. So it is a huge time commitment. And you mentioned the psychologist part. I think it's important to note that with being in equipment, not only are you working kind of alongside the coaches and the players, but you spend a majority of your time near the locker room with those players.
Yeah. Sorry. That's absolutely true.
All good, by the way. If you need to like jump up and do,
Yeah. Because
it's all good. Yes, and so I love that you kind of like said that not only is it the psychologist part and being on the team, but there's a little bit of it that you like the juice, and you like being around those environments, and I totally agree. And I want to take you back to early in your career. So, currently you are head of equipment for an NFL team, but you started with the Miami Dolphins, another NFL team. And I think this was either right after you graduated from college or shortly before you were going to graduate. So just take us back to that and tell us how your first NFL opportunity came about.
Sure. So I like to think I got one of the interesting starts in my career here. So and you'll appreciate it because you spent some time down there in Miami. So I grew up a huge Dolphins fan. That was my team growing up. So I got an opportunity while I was at Springfield College in Massachusetts through an alumni to go down and I originally was going down to work with their like operations events department. It was supposed to be help training camp. And I was going to get hours to get credits for school, and I was supposed to go down, end of May till essentially the end of training camp, right, and then go back up and finish my fall semester at school and be done. Um, my second to last day, one of the equipment interns quit, and Joe, the equipment manager there, needs someone to start like right away, like plug and play, go. We're going right into. I think we're playing the fourth preseason game in New Orleans in like 2 days, and he went to my boss and said, "Hey, you have any guys around that can jump in and do this?" And he said I was the only one he'd feel comfortable giving the name to. So the next morning, I go in and after the first practice, and I meet Joe, and Joe's sitting in his office, and I'll never forget he's sitting there, and he just came off the field, he's sweating, he's running, he's like, okay, he goes, let's go. We walk around the locker room, and he introduced me to the other guys, and then I'm walking the locker room. For me, it's like, Zach Thomas, Jason Taylor, some of my favorite players I grew up watching. Now they're sitting there, and I'm like, whoa, he's like, this is what we do. We do the laundry, we pack the bags, we do this and this. We set up a practice. Literally like 3 minutes, we're back in his office. Like, so what do you think? I was like, sounds great. He's like, okay, can you start tomorrow? In my head, I'm like, whoa, like, I went to meet with Joe just thinking in my head, like, I shouldn't say no, right? Like, but at the same time, I'm like, there's no way I can do this. I gotta go finish school. And so Joe asked me, can you start? And I said, he's like, he's like, go home, think about it for a few hours, and then call me later and tell me. So I'm like, oh gosh. So I called my advisor up at Springfield, and a friend of mine, Mike Hill, and he says, he goes, whatever you do, he's like, you got to stay. He's like, let me make some calls to try to flip your fall semester to spring. He's like, Brendan, you stay down there, and you gotta do this opportunity. I'm like, okay. So then I called Joe and I said, hey, I'm in. He's like, great. Okay, you start tomorrow. And then the next call was to my mom and dad, telling them I wasn't coming home. I wasn't coming home from Miami, and they're just killing me, saying, no, you're coming back, you're finishing school. I said, no, I'm going to, but I'm going to do this, and the classes all matched up, and it's all okay. So I ended up staying there with the Dolphins, right, and literally thrown into the fire. So I never worked in equipment. I knew what a helmet and all that stuff is just from playing football, most of my youth. So here I am, I'm doing this, right? I'm just taking orders. I'm in the locker room, my favorite team, pretty wild stuff. And I got thrown into it, and I don't know, I knew it was for me right away though, I spent the season there with the Dolphins, and I mean, we can get more into that if you want, but that's kind of the gist of it. And from there, an opportunity opened up with the Jets later on that I took. So,
well, and you talk. First of all, I love how your advisor at Springfield was like recognizing the importance of that moment and told you to stay there.
Thank God he did, because I couldn't fathom that at the time. Process that.
Yeah, as a 21-year-old, I can't even imagine. I'd be scared just to make that call. So that's really great that you had an advisor that was looking out for you. And then the second piece is, this is the NFL, right? Like, it's next man up all the time. Somebody leaves the day before training camp. They need somebody now, and you got to be ready to step up and fill whatever role. Right. You said that you knew it was for you immediately. What was it? Was it being around the players, or was it kind of a combination of things? Talk about how you knew it was for you.
Sure. I mean, the fact that they were going to employ me and pay me to go out to practice every day, and like, someone that later came in my career later, Mike Tannenbaum, I think you might know him too. He was GM at the Jets when I was there. He always said, if you do a job you love, you never work a day in your life, right? I'm sure you've heard that before somewhere, but I remember him telling me that, and it was true. I mean, I'm out there throwing footballs around and holding dummies and getting hit by NFL players, and like this doesn't work. This is great, like this is fun. So that's how I knew it was for me right away, and I knew I could pick up the rest of it as I went along. But that initial, being a part of it was really, I was like, man, this is for me, they're paying me to do this. They're suckers, So
Yes.
that's how I felt, at least.
Yeah, 100%. I remember when I interviewed after college for SMU, and they were touring me around the stadium, which wasn't one of these big SEC stadiums. It's a smaller 30,000 person stadium, and I was in awe. And I was thinking, oh man, they're gonna pay me below minimum wage to pass out Chick-fil-A's here. This is the greatest thing ever. So I totally relate to that. And I wanted to kind of talk about you climbing the ladder, so to speak, in the NFL and the equipment profession, and you then went to New York. So, kind of talk about how did that all come about? Like, did you
Sure.
get recruited to go there? Or did you know somebody there? How did that happen?
So it was a hard decision for me. So I finished the year with the Dolphins, and you know, I had just an unreal experience with them and learned a lot. And I went back up to Springfield, finished school in May, and somewhere in March, April-ish. There's fully seasonal internship spots open up in the NFL, and that was kind of the next step, hopefully, and because the Dolphins at the time they wouldn't bring back somebody back-to-back seasons, so um, the operations team in the Dolphins called me about an opportunity there, but I wasn't ready to give up on the equipment stuff. And I applied to a spot in New York, my hometown, with the Jets. And Joe from the Dolphins, my boss, called the head guy there, Gus, and put a good word in for me. And one thing led to another, and I got the position there as a seasonal intern with the Jets. So that was the next stop. I graduated Springfield on a Sunday, and I started 6 a.m. the next morning at the Jets out on Long Island. So I graduated, got in the car, drove down out to Long Island, and started my Jets career there the next day. So
Yeah, that's so cool. I
yeah,
want to dig into your Jets career. And the first year you were there, Eric Mangini was the coach,
correct.
and he was in his third season, and you guys started really well, eight and
Yeah,
three,
we did.
on the trajectory to make the playoffs. And the season did not end great for the Jets, unfortunately. And so I'm just curious, like looking back, for a late season collapse like that, I know that was Brett Favre's only season with the Jets. What stood out to you about that looking back that maybe you didn't recognize at the time? Or did you kind of know that things were starting to fall apart even before the end of the season?
No, so I was still too young to understand a lot of stuff, So looking back now, I see it a lot. I understand it more. But when I was going through it, I'm just like, man, we can win this next game. We can do this and this, and you learn more about injuries and how they're hitting. All that kind of stuff goes on. But man, I got to New York, and we're going into camp, and then all of a sudden, you know, I'll never forget, we were in Cleveland for a preseason game, and then comes across the ticker, we're trading Chad Pennington and we're bringing in Brett Favre, right? And we're like, whoa. And I remember being with a couple coaches, Brian Cox and Dan Quinn, and then they're like, well, we're going to the Super Bowl. Like that was a missing piece, and we're going to do this thing. And we had a good team, and we between Mike Tannenbaum, Eric Mangini, they had a good team, good solid, a lot of good players who knew the role, and we had a solid team that persevered after that too. But so there we were, and then Brett Favre shows up, and I'll never forget. A couple of days before when we were out of practice, we had maybe 1,500, 2,000 fans, and then Brett Favre's first practice. I mean, there had to be 10,000 people there. Just as far as you can see, there's people. Everyone wanted to see it, right? And he came out and threw his rocket laser pass, and we're like, oh, this is gonna be something, and what a guy! I mean, Brett Favre, what a guy! I mean, he's the ultimate guy's guy. Stories for days, and always joking around. This great dude, and I'm glad I got to experience that year with him there. But yeah, we went on, and like you said, we had a great start, and I remember we went into Tennessee and we beat the Titans at their place, and I think they were undefeated at the time. I think they were 8-0 or something, and that was a fun game for us, and I think for us that's when we were like, oh, this team's for real. We got a good team here, and like you said, we collapsed down the end, and we were in. I remember being in Seattle, and essentially we got knocked out. Right, we lost. But it's just snowing in Seattle, just dumping snow, and it was a mess. And I remember we lost that game. We got out of there, and it was pretty much over. And we played the Dolphins the next week at home, and they won. They beat us, and we actually won the division. That was the year Brady was out, so Matt Castle was in there for the New England. But
Yep.
Dolphins won, and I'd been there the year before, so now they're running off our field with the AFC East Championship, and I'm kind of like, dang, I was just there. Like, what? we were about to win it, and now here we are, kind of flip flopped, and it's amazing how fast things turn around for some teams. But yeah, it was a great experience, and Coach Mangini was, phenomenal football mind. That guy grinded like nobody else, and he had some great coaches, and it's fun. Like, a couple of them stayed, and a couple of them, reconnect with down the line. And we had a great year, and unfortunately he was let go. And I just went through that the year before in Miami, where the entire staff was let go, and so for me it was like, oh, this is just how it goes, like,
Mm-hmm.
I understand either how, that's not normal, but I understood more, when you kind of see a new coach comes in, people get a little worried about their job sometimes. You learn how that can affect you personally, and that was one of my welcome to kind of moments too, where it's like, oh, Coach Mangini's out, and he had good rapport with us in the equipment room, and what's this going to mean for us, and one thing led to another, and then Coach Rex Ryan comes in, so it all worked out for us, and we went on the next 2 years of back-to-back championships, AFC championships, and for me personally, I started the next year as a seasonal intern again, and I got hired after that year full time, so that was a big step for me. I was like, okay, I'm locked in. That's kind of, to me, it was the toughest step, right? Getting full time in somewhere. I didn't want to start over somewhere else again.
Yeah.
So that was, from there we started rolling, and Rex came in, and we went from you can want to refer to a Patriot type mentality, right? When Coach Mangini was there, to a complete 180 with Rex. We're having a lot of fun. Guys are having fun, and atmosphere is lighter, and good thing, bad thing. Who knows? There's positives and negatives on both sides, but he brought some fun things in, man, and he treated us really well too. He brought some new faces and some players that came in with him, Bart Scott and Jim Leonard and some of these guys, that helped change the culture a little bit too. Drafted Mark Sanchez, which, heck of a guy, man. He's a good friend of mine, and we still talk all the time. But yeah, that was fun. For me, I was working with offensive line at practice with Bill Callahan, and we had some guys, man, with Nick Mangold and Alan Faneca and Brick Ferguson, Damian Woody, and Brandon Moore. We had guys, and it was fun. And that, I work with them, and I take snaps like a quarterback. Hey, I never played quarterback in my life, and I'm here taking snaps from Nick Mangold. And I remember my welcome to moment there was, I think it was the first snap or second snap I took. Nick rocketed up to my hands, and I dropped the snap, and Alan Faneca was pulling on the play, right? So he damn near runs me over, kills me, so he's walking back to the huddle, and he goes, hey, Burk, do you like your job? I was like, yeah, I do. He's like, so good. He's like, get the F out of the way. I was like, got it, check, and that was one of my welcome to. Alan Faneca was to me, he's the definition of a pro, man. He's one of those guys that, when I was younger, I really admired the way he carried himself and handled it like a true professional. And you could tell it was his job and how much pride he took in it, and how he set the tone a lot of times for the other guys. It's pretty cool. He's going to the Hall of Fame this year, so
Yeah. And I was about to say, you're listing off some really good players right there.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna be invited out to his enshrinement, so it'd be pretty
Very
cool.
cool. No, that's really cool. You're talking about like Alan Faneca, and you're talking about Bart Scott. And you mentioned that it kind of changed the culture. So just talk about that for a second. Like, what changed bringing in these like handful of players? Like, how did the culture change?
Sure. So Bart Scott, man, no one barks better than Bart. You know, he comes in, he's always got, I mean, some of the best one-liners and jokes you could have. And just playful, you know, attitude all the time. But on the field, man, he's like Tasmanian devil, man. He was zooming around. And you know, he came with Rex and bought his defense, and Jim Leonard was with us in the secondary, who was, you know, our field general out there. I mean, not too many guys smarter than him, you know. Then we had this other guy who wore 24. He was pretty good. He had his own island when he was in New York.
Darrell Revis, of course.
One of the best competitors you'll ever see. Yeah, Darrell Revis. So we had some great players, man. And like I said, you know, one of the things that's cool with my job too is you get to know these guys a little bit on a personal level, right? And you have these interactions that, you know, not everyone has, fans don't have, even coaches, you know, don't always have. And even training, like from the training room to the equipment department, you might have a different relationship with these guys, right? And the culture was just different in that it was Rex's deal, right? And then he brought a different mentality, right? And you know, it's just different attitude to it that everyone kind of dug and got into. And I think it was just kind of a breath of fresh air at the time, you know, that was needed. I'm sure you've seen that places, right? That's usually what a coaching change is, right? It's just, okay, you know, the game hasn't changed, but, you know, how you approach it does. And, you know, I remember Rex had, you probably heard of the, you know, the acronym like KISS, like keep it simple, stupid. He called his KILL, right? Keep it learnable and likable. And, you know, he tried to keep the guys, and, you know, maybe his meetings were shorter or whatever, but, you know, he kept it fun for the guys. He kept them engaged all the time. And like I said, we had a lot of talent there, and then you added a few more pieces, and we were cooking. You know,
yeah,
they showed on the field. You know, really showed on the field, and we had man, some of those other guys. We had the next year that we bought in. You know, we bought Jason Taylor and from Miami. Who was, you know, he walked in, saw me, and that was it. You know, I was his go-to guy, and you know, ended up, you know, we still talk, and I went out to his enshrinement at the Hall of Fame, 2017. One of the cooler things I've ever done, you know, going to the Hall of Fame. I'm the first time to the Hall of Fame, but then to be there for a ceremony and be invited is pretty cool experience. And then we bought Daniel Tomlinson in. I mean, LT, I mean, at the time, you know, from whatever 2000, 2008, whatever it was. I mean, no one was like LT. He was just tearing it up. You know, probably arguably the most electrifying guy at the time, and to bring a veteran in like that, and what he brought to the table, and some of his moments. I mean, he was a pretty quiet guy. Both those guys, I think, you know, I've seen it here in other places, right, where you come in and it's those guys come in, like we had Clay Matthews here a couple years ago, right? And they're these superstar players, right? And Pro Bowlers and, you know, all decade teams, whatever. And but they also come in a role, right? It's not their team necessarily, right? But they're here to fill a role. So they all came in as pros, right? And added value to it, but they weren't trying to be the guy, the rah guy, right? Like this is somebody else's team, but I'll step up when I need to and leave my position. But yeah, so there we were at the Jets, and we brought these guys in, and you know, Santonio Holmes, who's, you know, Super Bowl MVP, one of the best catches probably in Super Bowl history, you know, like, so here we are with all these guys, and Braylon Edwards, and I mean, Jericho Contra. We had the receiving core that was phenomenal. And now we're kind of a favorite to go deep in the playoffs. It's not Super Bowl, right? And
yeah,
we came close again. We ended up, you know, in 2009, we got 2009 season. We got into, you know, we went in the playoffs. We beat Cincinnati, and then we went on. We came out here to San Diego and beat the Chargers here, and then we went and we lost to Peyton Manning and the Colts, right? And then, but we've kind of, the feeling was kind of like, oh, Jets have kind of got lucky to get in, and they got hot at the right time, and this and that. And then the next year we rolled in, and it was our show too, like we went in and we beat Peyton Manning in Indianapolis, and then we went out to New England and beat Tom Brady and the Patriots, right? And this was like, to me, that was the ultimate game of my career. Like my favorite game, probably in my career, was that win up there in the playoffs against the rival team, right? Jets, Patriots, and I remember running off the field with Jason Taylor, and he's all excited. He'd been spent a whole career, battling Tom Brady and these guys, and finally he's getting a chance to move on and go after, his goal of winning the Super Bowl, right? And then we just fell short the next week in Pittsburgh against Big Ben and company. But
right
on a very cold, frigid night in Pittsburgh, but it was games I'll never forget. So.
Yeah, really cool. And obviously the games that are played in, deep in December and January that's why you do it. That's why you put in that 6 months of working every single day. And I've seen it too. You mentioned like seeing a coach come in and it's basically the same team, but just maybe a different mentality or different approach to leadership just kind of like changes everything. And I think you see this a lot. Either a very we'll call like laid back coach is replaced by a very just like stern, maybe more Belichick approach. Right. And then you see it going the other way too, where you have like a very stern approach in coaching or leadership. And then the more, I guess, fun loving coach. And this is not to say that they're not paying attention to detail or doing their work. It's just a different approach, I think, in dealing with the players and in kind of like the way they run their program.
Exactly. And like I said, things run their course and that's how it goes sometimes. But, we had a good mix there with Rex, who was keeping it fun. And, I think our GM, Mike T, had a more serious mentality at times. So it was kind of a good balance for a long time with them. So it worked well. And, Rex was funny, man. He had great stories and a contagious laugh, and people love the guys love playing for him. And I think it's on video somewhere, but I remember it was later. I think it was maybe year 4 or 5 for him with the Jets, and it was we were down in Miami for the last game of the year. It was kind of, I think we were 7. I want to say we were 7 and 8 at the time. It was kind of in question if Rex was going to be back the next year, and the guys went out, man. They played for him. We had nothing to really play for at the time besides our coach, right? It was we weren't going to the playoffs. We were out already, and the whole deal. But the guys went out and balled out, and we won. And immediately in the locker room, John Izek, our GM, came in and said, Rex is our coach. He's not going anywhere, and guaranteed he's coming back the next year. So, Rex always jokes, crying Rex Ryan, but there were some tears there, and it was awesome, man. It was pretty cool to be a part of. And, Rex used to, like, one thing he do is keep fun. We had he called guest kicker at practice, right? So Friday, I think in between like period 5 and 6 or somewhere in there was guest kicker. So he picked somebody to come out and you get a chance to kick extra point, right? And if you made it, you got $100. If you missed it, you missed it. But this pertained, like, he'd either get like, lineman, or he'd get, a trainer or equipment guy or somebody come out, coach, come out and kick, right? And so Rex had done it, he called on himself sometimes in Rex fashion, which was great. But he had this in the back in the equipment room, we had this old square toe kicking shoe, right? So he would have me bring it out for him, and he put it on and he kicked this field goal, and it was always fun because he'd get, maybe his D coordinator or someone, they'll snap to, and then another guy to hold it. So we were going up. It was my birthday, and I don't know. I guess someone told him it was my birthday, so he calls me out there to kick this field goal, right, for in front of the whole team, the whole deal, right. So the other thing is the guys get all excited about it, right? They start, taking action. Who likes him? Who doesn't? We'll bet on this. So I'm out there, and So I got the whole line who I work with every day. They're like, no, we got Burk. He's gonna make it. I never kicked the ball like that, like besides messing around. So I get out there and my boss snaps it. One of the other equipment guys holds it. I get up there and I super toe this thing. It bounces off the crossbar like straight up. It's like I have a movie straight up and falls over, and guys are going nuts. Like, and Rex says, all right, double it. You move it back 10 yards, you can double it. I'm like, nope, I'm good. I'm taking it. So I stay out at the practice, clean up the field and stuff. But I get back to my desk later, and there's $100 bill sitting there waiting for me. So it's pretty cool. But he kept it fun like that, kept things light, So
yeah,
one of my favorite memories with him, So.
That is really cool. And for everybody out there listening that's never been on a football field or kicked a field goal before, it is not easy to kick a 15-yard field goal. Is very, very difficult. So you may not have the quite the respect for the kickers at the pro or college level, or the story that you just told. But I've been there, and I can attest that that is not an easy feat. So that's really cool. And I think, I've heard a lot about, Rex Ryan is this player's coach. And I think that's kind of overused sometimes. I think like being a player's coach is more about like being honest and being authentic with players. And that's what it kind of sounds like you're describing. Like he wasn't trying to be Brian Billick, who he had coached under for a long time. He wasn't trying to be somebody he wasn't. He was like extremely authentic, maybe one of the most authentic head coaches we've seen in the NFL. Obviously his press conferences get a lot of, focus, but it sounds like he was the exact same way with the team on a daily basis.
What you saw is what it was, man. He is as real as they come, in my opinion, and tremendous guy. And like I said, he was who he was. Like you said, it's what he did. He didn't change it. You didn't like it, too bad. Get out.
Right.
With us or against us. I think his opening press conference, I remember sitting in the auditorium listening. His first press conference with the Jets, it was he said, we're gonna bring new attitude. You take a swipe at one of our guys, we're gonna take two at you. I was like, oh, I like this. This is cool. Like, so I mean, he's a guy's guy for sure. And a lot of the staff he brought with him was great. We had a lot of fun, like I said, and they all kind of shared that same philosophy, right?
Yeah. That's really cool. And, you kind of mentioned it earlier too, kind of like when you were beginning in the NFL and you were kind of working for one staff that got let go. And then the next year, the whole Jet staff gets let go. And this is very much a part of professional sports. Just kind of like, what have you done for me now? Right. And despite making those 2 AFC championships, it's 3 years without going to the playoffs. So I'm just curious, like, what precipitated that? Like, was it just something where maybe like ownership had enough of Coach Ryan, or could you kind of feel that maybe things weren't quite the same as it was, in 2009, 2010, when you guys went to the AFC championship?
Yeah. I think it's a mix of things, right? And and I'm sure a lot of people there who follow football understand too, right? Like, there's a salary cap, and you can only pay a certain amount of guys, and sometimes you feel like you're a piece or two away, and you go all in, right? Maybe you trade your draft picks, maybe you don't do this or that, and I think we went for it. We made some big trades, like I said, Santonio Holmes, and then we ended up paying him a big contract, and we took Jason Taylor and LT on 1-year deals, just trying to go for it, and traded some other picks away. In the process. And I think that's one thing that Mike T and Eric Mangini done so well was drafts, right? They drafted really well. And they hit not only the first round with like the Darrelle Revises and guys, because they missed a few too, right? Yep. Vernon Golson, was one guy I remember, but they had drafted Nick Mangle and DeBrickshaw Ferguson, Darrelle Revis, but then they had these role players later on, Jericho Cotries and Brad Smith and Eric Smith, all these guys that they hit with in the 3rd, 4th, 5th rounds, that became big players for us. And that was huge, but then, free agency happens, and guys there's such a short window for players to, and I don't blame them. This is the real world for them. This is their job. They only have a short stint at it, right? There's
Yeah.
opportunity, right, to get your second contract, which is for most guys when you make your money for your career, right? That's where you make it. Um, if another team offers you a better deal, sometimes you got to go.
Yeah.
And so I think the combination of all that, and then you know, either maybe it got too loose at times that it was too loose that it's hard. It's hard for a coach, right? You can't just flip the switch. And today I'm gonna be stern and this and that if you've been the cool guy the whole time, right? So the flip the switch is hard. So and there's times you can do it because you can tell if Rex was getting frustrated. You're like, oh, coach is getting frustrated. We better shape up. But then there's also times where okay, well, we've always done it this way. Now you want to change it this way. It's no, that's not going to fly. So it could have been some of that too, and the combination of all that I think is really what happens. And like you said, hey, you missed the playoffs. You got a ton of talent, and we paid these guys a lot of money, and now you missed the playoffs 2, 3, 4 years, and I think Jets are up to 10 now. So they're going to make a change. That's what it's a business. That's what everyone would do, right? If you're losing money or you're losing, guess what? There's going to be a change.
Yeah.
And luckily I had just left. I left the year before Rex was let go. I left for an opportunity at UCLA, but yeah, I mean, yeah, a lot of fun. But you could tell sometimes when things are going on, right?
Yeah.
You're like, this doesn't look good.
I always think about David Shaw at Stanford. He had a quote where he was talking about start as you mean to go on. And I really like that, right? Because, especially if you're talking about recruits or, stepping into a leadership position, you can't be the fun-loving guy that's friends with everybody and then flip the switch 6 months, 2 years later. That's very difficult because now everybody, they're used to you being that guy. And it's very easy to push back against that versus somebody coming in and kind of being maybe a little more stern and serious. So I've seen it time and time again. And you just talking about it made me think of that great David Shaw quote.
Yeah, I think that's something you gotta give so much credit to, the Bill Belichick's the world where, he hasn't changed his get down it. He is who he is too, right? And, and Rex the same way. I think, Rex get another head job, and he's gonna go about it the same way because that's who he is. And if it works, it's gonna work. And if it doesn't, it doesn't,
Yep. And you mentioned UCLA. This is where you and I met. We both were there for the 2014 and 15 seasons. And I know you were there through 16, and you also worked at Rutgers after that. So I want to give you an opportunity to just talk about the differences and maybe some of the similarities in a NFL locker room that you've seen in the college locker room.
Sure. Yeah. So I got the opportunity there at UCLA and with Coach Moore and the Bruins. And yeah, I had never worked in college before. I'd only worked in pro football for 7 years. So the opportunity came to go out and be the head equipment manager. So it was a big move for me across the country and big move career wise up from the bottom to the top, right? So and walk into a team that had done really well and had a ton of talent at UCLA as well, right? I don't know the name, but a lot of those guys have gone on to NFL careers, and it was definitely different. Obviously, there's a lot of different rules from the NFL and NCAA and compliance and all that good kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's football and it's football, and but the locker rooms are different, right? You have the called the amateur athlete to the pro athlete and the student athlete, right? And and it's the pros that come in to go to work and they go home, right? And when the students are there, they come in, they kind of hang out, right? For us in the locker room, like they're always there. They live in these football centers, right? Because a lot of campuses, those are some of the nicest buildings on campus, right? Like,
yes,
how it is working there. You got your locker room's there with your gear and your showers and your bathrooms and your player lounge and your food and your weight, everything's there,
And your
right?
spa and your hot tub
Yeah, your
and
hot tub, your cold tub, your trainers, right? Where you go and get, some work done on you. So it's like, yeah, they just camp out, right? And I'm sitting here like, no, no, it's time to go home. Like, you know, um, but no, it got fun, but also you could be a little more stern with the student athlete as opposed to a pro athlete, right? Where it's,
Mhm.
"Hey, you're going to do this my way, or this is how it's going to be, or no, I can't do that because, there's a rule or X, Y, and Z. So, um, that was one of the big differences. But for me, it was definitely an eye opener with the compliance and the rules and what you can and can't do at the end of the day. And then you had a lot more guys, right? I think we had 118, 120 kids almost on the roster, and these kids are walk-ons and these are scholarship players, and you're figuring out the differences, and you try to treat everyone the same, right? So, um, but then at the same time, like you got to double kids up because you only have a certain amount of lockers, so you got to double up the walk-ons, and you feel bad about it at times, but you got to do it. And then here you are, you're in Westwood and UCLA in the middle of Los Angeles, and you play your games at the Rose Bowl, right? Like unbelievable venue, right? Like every football
The
fan should go to
best.
the Rose Bowl at some point, my opinion, right? There's no place like it, and yeah, I'm with all these guys. Coach Moore is legendary, coach, his father, Coach Moore
Yep.
Senior came around a lot and came out to practice a lot with us in games, so that was cool to be a part of. And Coach Moore always, type A guy, very, high strong, always going. And we had some guys I worked in New York with, Sal Losi and Noel Mazzoni, and some of those guys were there too. So that was cool for me to at least have some familiar faces, but um, totally different. And we're out there blaring music at practice and tempo, and we're going, and I got student managers working for me now, and they're all over the field, and just trying to keep up with them. Sometimes it's my full time job, right? Like trying to get them to come, especially we practice at 7 a.m. So we're out, students are there at 5:30 in the morning. That's a heck of a commitment for a kid in college, right? Where most kids are sleeping until 10, 11 a.m. sometimes, and these kids are up at 5:30 helping, to be a part of the team, which is incredible. So yeah, we 3 years with the Bruins, man, and a ton of talent, a ton of coaches, right? Some that I later reunited here with the Rams, right? With Eric Yarber and Jed Fish. Yeah, tremendous time there.
Yeah, and it's cool because you mentioned something that I just want to get your opinion on. So, you mentioned kind of taking the reins at UCLA. Now you're running the entire equipment department there for the football team, and now you have a team. Now you have a staff, and now you are the leader. So I want to hear kind of like, how did you, I guess, maybe like kind of learn your leadership style? And did you take anything from the coaches that you were around and kind of implement that in the way that you run your equipment staff back at UCLA and even today?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, when I was at the Jets and we'd be sitting there and later in the evening, ready, finishing up laundry and stuff, and we're folding towels or whatever. And I'm like, man, if my boss would just come in and help us fold these towels, we'd be done so much faster. But I never understood what he was doing all the time. But then I got in that seat at UCLA, and I'm like, man, I will never say bad. I'll never criticize Gus for not coming and helping us fold towels because your plate is full, man, with just requests for whether it's media shoots or putting orders in with vendors or just stuff from the NCAA or from the NFL now, like they got to fulfill and go, and then you got, like you said, staff, you got to sit there and you got to listen to them because everyone's got a story, and everyone needs something or wants something, or whether it's, hey, you know how do I move up in my career, or hey, we had a death in the family, can I go home, and like how do you figure it out, right? Like so many extremes. But like you said, you at times too, you try to mimic. Like you also think about what went well. With for me was what I liked at the Jets. What we did well, I thought as a department. And then all things that I always had in the back of my head, like, man, I would do this different, or I'd make sure I put a face to this or that, right? And so that's something I still keep in the back of my head, right? Like, man, whether it's, and a lot of times it's more for your staff, right? Where it's, man, it's hard to make time for this, but I need to do this, right? To show the guys that I'm here with them, and you're in the trenches a little bit, and getting your hands dirty, and just show face for them too, right? And,
Yeah.
I got to UCLA, and like I said, I had one assistant and then a full time intern who were both great, and we had 10 or 12 students who would help us, right? But they were kids, so you couldn't really rely on them all the time, and you couldn't ask them to do too much, right? Because they had to run the class, and we took out everyone like, man, we out at UCLA, like these kids that were working for me, man, they're going to med school, they're going to be lawyers, they're going to Anderson School of Business, like they're all going way above bigger, better things than being an equipment guy. So they did an awesome job, and I tried to use those guys and use their time wisely, right? Like I knew I needed them for practice and help, like literally where I couldn't do it myself or just me and the full time member, right? And then I tried to say, okay, guys, like you guys did great at this, killed this. All right, go on, like your free time now, right? Like go to class, go do your thing, and then in my head, like I tried to build an atmosphere that was fun for them, right? So they come back on their own because they liked being there, right? They like being a part of it, and they knew they can come back and, hey, Bert, I'm gonna work on this paper bit, but I'll help pass out laundry, or I'll help you put this together, or whatever, So it was pretty cool, man. And a lot of those kids that work for me, I still keep in touch with a lot of them, and they're great kids, man. It was fun. I think they learned a few things too. Like that's discipline. Like I said, 5:30 for a kid in college to be up and at it, and every day, and the commitment. That was when I would interview guys and girls to come work for us. I said that this isn't rocket science, but it's a commitment for sure. That's the number one thing, was always you're committing to the team, to me, and to the other guys. Like if you're not going to show up on time, this isn't for you. I'll tell you right now. So
Yes.
that was something that always stuck with me with those guys. So I
Yeah.
learned a lot. I learned a lot from the kids too. Like you can
Of
tell when the kids
course.
are lying to you, and you gotta let them go. That was tough too. Because you always wanted to believe them or this and that, but you could tell sometimes like it wasn't working out. So
Sometimes it's not the right fit, maybe not
sometimes
the right time,
it
and
isn't
that's
for
okay.
everybody. It isn't for everybody. So
It isn't for everybody. And obviously now you work with the Los Angeles Rams, and I'm just curious. You work with somebody who I have a lot of respect for, Sean McVay, as a head coach, amongst a lot of other great coaches that you guys have on staff there. But I'm just curious, as a leader, what were your first impressions of Sean McVay?
wow. So I don't know where to start with that one. I mean, Coach McVay is like it's hard to describe him, man. He's got this aura about him that you want to just like Rex, but like you'd run through the wall for him. But I came out the interview with Coach McVay, right, and we started at like 5:30 in the morning in his office, right, because he's up and he's going, man. I don't know if he ever sleeps, to be honest, but we started at 5:30 in the morning, man. He came in just boom, 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 and we had a great conversation, and it went on from there. But I knew, like, you could tell he's an intense guy, right? So, uh, but man, he does such a good job of balancing, his approach, his leadership approach, and his positivity, right? That's one of the things that part of his philosophy, I guess you'd say, like as a coach, right? He tries to always take positive, right? Which is hard to do always, right?
Yes.
Especially given the last year with the COVID and the restrictions and everything else. But somehow he does it, and he stays. I always say, to me, he's the most consistent person I've ever been around, right? Where he practices what he preaches and he sticks to it, and that's really hard to do. But he does it, and I don't know how, but he does it. And I just try to keep up with him, put it that way, right? And we just have a relationship where I don't want to disappoint him, right? Like that's the biggest thing to me. I don't want to disappoint the guy. Like, I don't want to be the guy that lets the team down, but man, he's been great with me and puts a lot of trust in me and decisions, you know, he's like, bro, you know this better than me. You do it. Like, whatever you want to do it. If you need a question, answer, guidance, come tell me. But other than that, he lets me run my show here and my staff here. And, it's been great. And we have daily interactions. He comes through and I go through his office and we talk and about everything, and a lot of times not about work or football, just life. And, I think it's a little bit get away for him too sometimes, right? Where,
of course,
coaches call in always, want to talk ball, or players go in and probably have an issue or want something, right? Where for me, it's like, oh, I'm good. What's going on? Just, and he'll check the pulse. She'll check the pulse of the locker room. What's going on there? What the guy's saying? They feel good about X, Y, and Z. But like you said earlier, he's one of those coaches that just has the pulse and stays consistent. In efforts, not to lose the team or lose respect to the players, right? I think the players have tremendous respect for him. And being such a young guy too, one indictment on him, man. He's something else, Yeah. I'm not just saying that because he's the boss. I'm being sincere, he's and then you get on the field, it's just like, it's like a beautiful mind of football, right? Like he sees it all, and you're like, man, this guy's impressive. How he sees it and his understanding and knowledge of the game's incredible. Whether you're whereas a quarterback or defensive back or D lineman, he knows what he's talking about. He knows it. It's wild.
Yeah. And that's I've heard the same thing from other coaches that have coached with him and read a lot about him. So everything you're saying is in direct alignment with that. And I love the positivity piece. And you talked about it a second ago about guys kind of coming in and hanging out in the locker room. Understandably, for the pros, it's kind of like, this is my place of work. Like, let me go home to my family. But it's so important to kind of create that environment where players feel welcome and players feel comfortable to sit on a couch in an equipment room for half an hour or maybe take a nap. I know, like, when we were at UCLA, it was like really common to have guys napping in there, not like just because like that was just a couch and they felt comfortable being in your space, so to speak, with your staff. And I just love that. And I want to kind of talk about just, I have two things, Brendan, that I want to touch on before we wrap up here. And that's, you've been in all these locker rooms, you've been around so many great players. I mean, you were listing literally like a dozen Hall of Famers that you've worked with over the last 12 years. And I'm just curious, like, what stands out to you about the best teams or the best cultures you were a part of, or some of the best players? Were there any habits or any kind of themes or feelings that were present in that locker room on the very best teams you're a part of?
Sure. I mean, it's always leadership right from the start, like, because all those teams had great talent, right? And then we have great talent here right now, and we're hoping to do good things this year at the top, right? And sometimes you just sometimes you hit a spot, whether it's in a game or something off the field, right? Like, happens or goes on, and you look for someone who's got that. That's one of the best things about sports and teams, right? You got someone there to pick you up when you need it, right? And whether it's the head coach or a veteran player on the team or not, or someone that's lived it, right, who's gone through something, right, and they just speak up at the right time, right? I mean, I've heard so many. I watched Jason Taylor flip, Gatorade coolers at halftime because, he was tired of losing, right? And I watched LaDainian Tomlinson give a speech about when we played the Chargers, right, about what it meant to him to win this game, right? And I mean, there's countless times, right? And some games mean more to other people and head coaches too, right? It was like playing SC at UCLA, right? And what, Coach Moore would get fired up for that one, and he was on it, right? And Patriot Week at the Jets, we'd always call it. It was just like, man, it got intense, it's kind of like here when we play Seattle. It's just, it levels up a little bit, but you look for someone to just step up and say, hey, either we got this, or I got your back, or you could do it. And that's one of the things I think is sports and the culture it is, that you believe, right? You believe in each other, right? And you play for each other, and at the end of the day, everyone's getting, it's their job and they're getting paid to do this and that. But at the same time, like, man, 99% of people that are here for this, they want to win a game, and they're not going to let their teammate down, right? And like I said, well, I think I said when I started the podcast, right? Like, there's nothing like it when you come together and you win a game on a Sunday. It's just the ultimate, together, right? Together, you did
Yes.
this together as a team victory and a team win, and not one guy, right? Like, we got this guy 99 in our locker room, Aaron Donald, who's, I mean, probably the best player I've ever seen. Like, he's like nobody else, but he's not the guy who's go out there and give the rah-rah speech before the game, right? He's just locked in. He goes out like the Terminator, right? But then we get a guy like Andrew Whitworth here, who's been 16, 17 years in the league, and he just wants to win a Super Bowl, man. Like, and he speaks from the heart all the time. And I know when there was stuff happening off the field here, whether it was last year with George Floyd, or a couple years before that, there was a mass shooting here in Thousand Oaks that, wildfires here that went rampant. Like, he's been our compass, right? He's been the heartbeat that spoke up and kind of assure guys things are gonna be all right, and we're gonna get through this together. And he was here for everybody, so it's pretty amazing stuff, and one of the beautiful things about the locker room, man, everyone comes from a different walk of life, right? Comes from different parts of the world, different parts of countries, different classes in society, different, religious, races, everything. I mean, it all comes together, right? The ultimate melting pot, right? And
Yes.
that's cool, because you hear different stories and different experiences, and to me, there's nothing like it. And getting to know these guys a little bit, and hear their stories, and just their thoughts. Sometimes it's incredible. Man, I can't say enough. It's a perfect job for me, and I love being a part of it. And,
Yeah. Well, it's certainly awesome to hear your story, and appreciate you sharing. I want to leave us with a quote from Eric Waddell. He said that the equipment staff is the heart of the team. And I just want to hear from you. What does that mean to you when you hear that?
Yeah, that's a great quote, and it's funny you say that, because I think Andrew Whitworth said the same thing like a couple years ago. We're the heartbeat of the team, and because we're the guys that we're here every day with these guys, and like I said, whether they play well or not, we're doing our job, we're taking care of them, right? And they know that, and I think they see that, and it becomes second nature to them that, hey, those guys are in there, and they're here before us, they're here after us, and they're going to help us out and do what they can for us. And we're not the ones making decisions if they're going on the field, or if they're injured and can play, or how much they're going to get paid, right? We're just regular guys to them, right? So I think it's sometimes where the comfort level comes in, like, hey, they're just guys in there going to work like us, and that's where the heartbeat comes. And really, there's no job too big, too small for us, right? Because we're doing their laundry, packing their bags, but we're also out there on the field running with them, holding sled, moving sleds, holding pads for them. And then we travel with the games, we're with them. We're all with them all the time. And, and again, guy gets a flat tire, like, who do they come to? Usually the equipment guys, right? We help them out, guy needs something else, like run down the street, grab it for him, right? We kind of become, their little assistants too, like, or hey, like, how do I get this, or where do I go for that, right? Or hey, Berg, you got a good hookup for this here in town, or you got a spot I should go eat at, or whatever, like, suggestions wise, because a lot of times equipment teams, that they've been there for a while, and they know the area, and they know what's going on, and guys come in, they feel at home, right? And no, we're not going to steer them the wrong way. So yeah, man, we're here for them. It's a service thing, And like I said, you get some great people in this business doing these jobs.
Yeah, and you hit on it a moment ago. You were talking about being invited to a lot of these players' enshrinements in the Hall of Fame, and I think that just goes to show the respect that they have for you. And kind of, you talked about the team aspect of it a moment ago, right? Coming through for the guy next to you, and I think that's a wonderful way to end our interview. Brendan, thank you so much for joining us here today. I know you're not going to be in the draft house, but I hope you have a great rest of your off season, and I'm looking forward to following the Rams here in 2021.
Awesome, man. Yep, we're up for a big season, man. I'm excited to get back to SoFi, hopefully some fans, and see what we can do, man. Host that Super Bowl this year. It's like the Tampa did last year. So.
Yep, one game at a time. One game at a time.
1 week at a time right now. So
1 week at a time. Yep, exactly. Well, Brendan, thank you so much for joining me, man, and look forward to chatting with you soon.
Awesome. Great to see you.